And there's plenty happening at the Calder Raceway in Melbourne. Let's go down to my friend and colleague now, Gary Wilkinson for the Australian Super Series Heat 2. Here's Gary.
To Melbourne International Raceway, Calder Park, for what is Heat 2 of the Super Series, the $200,000 Super Series for Group E production cars. Cars coming down to line up on the grid for this race. One heat already run today. Jim Fanico won it in a Starion from Stephen Brook in a BMW, and Gerard Murphy in an Alfa. What about this one, Evan Green?
Well, the two cars on the front row are both Mitsubishi Starions, turbocharged cars. Brian Sampson made pole in 78, alongside him Peter Fitzgerald in 3. Then we've got two Alfa Romeos on the second row of the grid. 15, Gerard Murphy. 7, Colin Bond, running in the factory Alfa. On the next row, David Selden, another Alfa GTV6, he's car 61. Gary Walden alongside in an RX-7, waiting for the light to go. Alan Grice is behind in car 6 in a Pulsar turbo, worth watching. And Kevin Bartlett also back there in 66.
Sampson was slow off the grid, and he's lost it in the run to the first turn. Oh, look at Grice trying to get up on the inside as they go down into the corner. Gee, I think he's fooled himself there. He's been shuffled back a couple of places instead.
Oh, there's some pushing and touching going on there. Colin Bond on the inside in the Alfa, right alongside car number 3, which is Peter Fitzgerald.
Fitzgerald got the lead, and Bond's trying to take him.
And look at Alan Grice in the Pulsar turbo, going one side, then the other, pulling up past Gary Walden in the RX-7. And Grice with a perilous line there, back in about 6th place and in the middle of more traffic design in pit.
Bond has got the lead. Colin Bond in the Alfa Romeo GTV6 having its first outing at this meeting.
Oh, goodness me,
Walden's involved in it, car number 5.
Pickett.
Who else? 78, that's Brian Sampson.
Was in pole position. I think I saw Pickett there too, goes in the big Falcon.
Oh, smoke. Well,
they all seem to be mobile again, but they were certainly touching and
put pay to their chances. Down the main straight they go. Colin Bond over on the left of your screen. Fitzgerald out wide.
So it's 6 cylinders of Italian car, normally aspirated, 4 cylinders of Japanese car, turbocharged. On the outside, Fitzgerald goes Bond, stays to the inside. He should get the better line. Let's see how they go into acceleration. It might suit the turbo here.
Gee, Gerard Murphy can't run in behind him too. Looks as though he's anxious to get by.
He certainly is, and he's gone very wide there. He's got a good line there. Bond, though, really shows a bit of Alfa Romeo squirt there and puts the 2.5 metre 6 up there in the lead. Murphy's taken 2nd spot, and look at the 4th.
Alan Grice, yes, you bet your life. He's really got that exit turbo going like clockwork in this heat. Had a little trouble with brakes in the earlier race.
The first time we've seen Colin Bond at the wheel of the factory Alfa. 2 factories represented. There's Gerard Murphy in his private car, goes a little wide. One is Alfa Romeo, who entered Colin Bond in car 7. The other is Mitsubishi, who entered Kevin Bartlett. He's back in the field a bit in car number 66. In earlier races this year, not here at Calder, but this is the first of the series, it's been the turbocharged Starions which have proved dominant, but the Alphas are out in force today, and Bond has put his on the front, and he's not going to surrender that lead without a hell of a fight.
There's the sight that will gladden the heart of Ruggiero Rotondo, the general manager of Alfa, who was at the launch of the car just a week and a half back. There's the other Alfa going through now.
And number 66 is Kevin Bartlett in the factory Starion. He's not doing quite as well as Colin Bond is at the moment, but he didn't have such a good practice time, and in such a congested field, grid positions are important. Colin Bond started from the 2nd row and very quickly worked his way to the front. Kevin Bartlett's got a harder job ahead of him, but he's trying very hard back there, and the total distance of the race, 10 laps, gives him just a little bit of time to try and work his way through.
Grice is up to 3rd, so it's Bond going across the start-finish line. Gerard Murphy 2nd, then Alan Grice, followed by Peter Fitzgerald. So it's Alfa, Nissan, and then Starion.
Mark Gibbs in a Commodore, who started 13, is next in the group, up into, what, 6th or 7th place. Doing well, but this is the man who's leading in that rather attractively striped Alfa. Colin Bond. Gerard Murphy is pulling out beside him, and there's the cheeky nose of the Pulsar that Alan Grice is driving with Peter Fitzgerald alongside him, and they are almost shoulder to shoulder. Wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of bumping and bruising going on. Don Bradland in the RX-7. This is the type of car that was dominant last year. The RX-7s and the Nissan 280ZXs were the top cars in this category, but the rules are a little different. You can take more expensive cars now. $30,000 is the price limit, and that's allowed in cars like the GTV6 and the Starion and the BMW, which we'll see in a later race. Not all the field is represented in this heat, so there's a lot of real thoroughbred material now in Group E racing here in Australia. As well as the locally made cars, there are Falcons and Commodores, but they're a little bit further back in the field.
Lap time for Colin Bond, 55.5, which is just under a second outside the lap record here. I see that Alan Grice has been shuffled back again to fourth spot. Great battle going on for second, third and fourth between Murphy, Fitzgerald and Grice.
One of the Pulsars there is at what, number 13, is it? It's just 73, a bit hard to pick up the number
Brad
there.
Jones in a Starion.
He started from 8th place on the grid, dropping back a little bit. He won't be happy with going wide there.
Bartlett slipping by him, trying to slip by.
Not being very successful, I don't think. He almost got up there, but I think he's losing out to the privateer.
5 laps to go for Colin Bond as he comes down towards the start-finish line once more. Out of Glowweave corner, onto the straight, over the line.
Colin has a lead of just about 60 metres, but a real battle going on there behind. And the interesting one, I think, is Alan Grice. He's got the smallest car in the grid, the little 1.5 litre or 1.4 litre Nissan Pulsar Turbo. Really making him crack, though. He's at the tail of that group, but only just. There he is, just where he is on the tow bar.
Bond going through, followed by Peter Fitzgerald in a Starion. Gerard Murphy in another Alfa. And then Grice. There he is, car 6, getting underneath Murphy, going into that corner. So putting himself back into third spot, Alan Grice, and setting out in pursuit of Peter Fitzgerald.
And this man leading the race, Colin Bond. The Super Series, $200,000 worth, the richest race series in Australia in motorsport, will be contested over 3 tracks: here at Calder, at Adelaide International Raceway, the first meeting next Sunday, and at Amaroo Park. 6 races in all, 2 at each of the interstate circuits. Well, it's line astern at the moment. Bond still with a significant lead over Peter Fitzgerald, up into second spot now in the Starion. And it's good to see other makes in touring car racing, isn't it, with cars like Alfa Romeo and Mitsubishi.
Is terrific, isn't it? Now we've got, and of course, Stephen Brook with his BMW, although he's not contesting this particular heat. But with the Mitsubishis, the Alphas, the BMWs, of course, the Commodores, Fords. It really has the RX-7s, the 280s. It's really opened this series right up.
There was only 1 second between the leading 10 qualifiers here yesterday in practice times, and quite a variety of cars. 2 Starions were fastest, then 2 Alphas in the next row. One of which was driven by Colin Bond. Then a Mazda RX-7 and Nissan Pulsar. 3 laps to go.
Bond is circulating, by the way, only 3/10 outside the lap record for this class.
A Ford Fairmont, Mark Pickett, was up there in 9th spot, but he was bumped off the circuit in that shuffling of cars and lost time. He's still running, but a long way back.
Interesting thing about these cars, of course, Evan, looking ahead to the introduction of Group A touring cars, is that this vehicle of Colin Bond is the same car that they will be running in Group A, with a few
I certainly hope so, Gary. Yes, I hope they're not running a Group A car in Group B.
No.
The
But the conversion
is the base work,
is,
yes.
is so simplified, especially with the factory backing, that it's going to make it a lot easier for teams to transfer out of one and upgrade into the other.
Yeah, this is
a lot of dust there as the car just puts its tail on. It looks like one of the Alphas. Yes, car.
Murphy's been getting a bit out of shape right from the outset, hasn't he?
Well, he's trying desperately hard to retain contact with the leading 2, and you can see that Fitzgerald is closing on Colin Bond. Now, whether that's because Colin is just not able to keep him away, or whether Colin is content to stay in front. 2 laps to go, by the way. Whether he's content to stay in front by that margin, I don't know. But I don't think he'd be happy with how close Fitzgerald has got, because, let's face it, the turbocharged Starion has been the winning car in this category. This is Colin's first outing in the Alfa Romeo.
Bond looking down too, I think fighting a little hard. I don't know whether he's got a problem or not, but Fitzgerald certainly getting a lot closer, close enough to mount a big challenge with a lap and a half to go.
Well, an interesting variety of cars. A 6-cylinder, fuel-injected overhead cam car, the Italian Alfa Romeo, 4-cylinder 2-litre turbocharged car, the Japanese Mitsubishi Starion, and then behind the little Nissan Pulsar, the smallest car, certainly up there in contention with Alan Grice driving, 4 cylinders, turbocharged, and then behind that another Starion. So there's a bit of a gap there. Back to car 6.
Over the start-finish line goes Bond, Fitzgerald in pursuit, then Alan Grice, Gerard Murphy, and car 70.
It's Mark Gibbs in the Commodore, who's done very well to get it up to that place. He has been threading his way through the field, and he's up now into, what's that, 4th place? The 5th place, rather, with Gerard Murphy back there in 4th behind Alan Grice. There they are, the leading 5 cars.
And the man has gone to grab the checkered flag in preparation for whomsoever.
I think Colin Bond is trying hard, we could say that.
Oh,
Yes, they're both trying hard, and they both cost themselves a couple of tenths of a second there, probably.
Colin's still coming to grips with the car, although because he only drove it for the first time, I think it was on Thursday or Friday. But it's going to be a good enough effort to get the checkered flag. He's now just accelerating towards the start-finish line, and he'll have to. He'll certainly win by 4 lengths as he goes across in front of Peter Fitzgerald. So it's Alfa Romeo first, then Starion second, Nissan Pulsar third, another Alfa Romeo in 4th place, and Commodore in 5th.
Okay, let's check those top 3 placings again. The winner of the second heat, round 1 of the $200,000 Super Series for Group E production cars here at Calder. Car 7, Colin Bond, the Alfa Romeo GTV6. In 2nd place, car number 3, Peter Fitzgerald, the Mitsubishi Starion. And 3rd place to car number 6, Alan Grice in the Nissan Exa Pulsar. Great motor racing action, and of course highlights of the entire meeting to be telecast on the 7 Network from 5 o'clock this afternoon. But right now we return you to Peter Landy at the Sydney Cricket Ground.
Thank you, Wilco. It's strange you being in Melbourne and me being in Sydney, but we saw some pretty spectacular action there, and there was a rather nasty accident earlier in the afternoon regarding the Elfin of Alan Newton. Let's take a look at that now before we come back to some football comment. And that is pretty rugged driving, isn't it? That's the shortcut. And of course, he also came to grief there, landing now. Wow. That's how Lou drives on the Southeastern Freeway at night. And of course, as Gary mentioned, there'll be more action at 5 o'clock tonight. The score at half-time
It'll be worth watching.
That's
well, the most important thing, as long as the guy's not hurt, isn't it?
He did look okay, didn't he?
He looked okay. He looked too good to me. He's okay. Well, that's
He's
good
okay.
news.
All right.